MASN's coverage of the 2023 winter meetings is brought to you by your Baltimore area Toyota dealers. For legendary safety and reliability, choose Toyota, and let's go places.
I do feel like it was a productive day. Nothing that I'm at liberty to get into particulars about, but we're having a lot of good conversations. Obviously, there are a ton of free agents still on the market, and things really haven't broken loose. It's a little bit of a surprise, but every winter meetings is different. But I think it makes for a lot of possibilities still out there, both trade and free agent, and we're working on it.
What would you consider your biggest priorities right now, Mike?
Well, we have put upgrading our pitching staff kind of at the forefront. Doesn't mean that we're definitely going to be able to check all the boxes that we want in that department. It doesn't mean that we're not going to make position player supplementations or additions, but we've been really focused out of the gates since the offseason started on trying to upgrade our rotation, trying to put another arm into the back end of the bullpen, especially with Felix Bautista being out. So those have been our priorities, but you got to be kind of fluid over the course of the offseason. It's not the entirety of our pursuits, but those are the easiest things I think any observer of our team, and that includes me. Those are areas where it would probably be the easiest for us to bring in some help and have it make an impact, but it's also the area that 29 other teams are looking for every single year, and so it's very competitive out there, but we're working on it, and I expect we'll be able to get some things done here this offseason.
Mike, the GM meetings you were talking about, hoping that the success you guys have had will help make Baltimore a more attractive destination for free agents. Have you found in your talks with agents that they're looking at your team differently than they may have in the past?
Yeah, totally. It's been really refreshing, and it's such an easy conversation for Brandon Hyde and I to explain why this is a good place to come play. Particularly on the pitching side, I know we haven't gone bonkers with pitching free agent acquisition since we moved the wall back, but even just bringing Jordan Lyles or Kyle Gibson in on short-term contracts, then having them have some of the better years in their careers and then kind of go back out on the market and parlay that into better dollars. That's a first for the Orioles franchise. I think, historically you look and it was just a tough place to sign pitchers, and it would often involve overpays or waiting for guys to not have jobs in spring training. It was just really uphill sledding. So just even on minor recruitments, that has become easier. It's obviously a very pleasant, exciting clubhouse vibe. It's just all things positive. So, in terms of intangibles, I think we have a lot going for us, and it's really just competing on a contract that remains something that's very competitive in our business and not easy to do. But I do feel like we've got a really attractive destination from a baseball sense now, which is really nice to have that under our belts.
Mike, in terms of the bullpen, with the potential of DL and or Tyler being there, the good report you got on Dylan Tate, does it still leave you motivated that you feel like you got to get someone there even with that?
Yeah, I've been pretty consistent about that. I mean, I don't want to paint myself into a corner, but we have a lot of young, talented, relatively inexperienced arms in this bullpen. We're bringing them all back. It's a good group in terms of depth, quantity, quality, diversity, but it doesn't. I think we're missing an anchor with Felix being out, and we're going to try to. Nobody can replicate him, but just to have some structure to the bullpen, additional structure would be a plus. So we'll see if we get there.
Mike, have you seen Yamamoto in person or just on video? And when you watch him, what do you see? Who does he remind you of?
I've never been to Japan. What I hear and see about him looks extremely exciting as a scouting person, and He seems like a bright talent, and it's great for our game when we get the best players from Japan. I mean, we see what it does for us. So it's pretty cool that this is a good winter for Japanese players in a lot of ways.
Is there something unique about him compared to Daisuke or Tanaka, the guys who've been in the past?
I don't know how qualified I am to answer that, but he's so young. That seems different. He's 25 years old, and that's seems rather unique.
Does that change the level of risk in terms of going at 7, 8, 9, 10 years like a year?
I gotta be a little careful with.
I'm not asking whether the Orioles are doing that, but
I can't speculate about the pros and cons of contractual formats or lengths, but I can definitely echo the scouting reports that a lot of these guys, him included, coming over, are very bright talents that we're going to be happy to have here in the States.
Like with the pitching market, it becomes supply and demand at some point, right? And so many teams are after quality starting pitching, particularly in your division. There's not enough to satisfy everyone. What happens when there are more people in search of pitching than there are qualified options, either on the free agent market or trade? What does that do to the whole market?
It's a perennial thing, I think, especially in the last 20-25 years when guys have started throwing this hard, and it seems like the injury rates are up, the demand outstrips the supply. I think it puts a lot of emphasis on what you're doing player development wise, and so we in Baltimore have done a lot of work to have a pitching pipeline that is starting to get some commendations from Baseball America or whatever. So we're pleased to see that, because we need to lean on getting pitchers from the amateur level, maybe with some lower picks, and coaching them up into guys that we can use here, because there's just not enough pitching to go around, quality pitching on a free agent market any given year.
Mike, there's been a lot of talk about how Otani is sort of the big domino everybody's waiting for to fall. I don't want to be presumptive and to say that you're not in on Otani. You might be, for all we know. Do you think Otani's holding up business for all 30 clubs, even those who aren't in, waiting on him?
It would probably be the best theory I could have for why this seems to be a slower developing kind of winter meetings. When you've got a generational is probably not the right word. It's like a century Babe Ruth talent, pretty big deal. And there are some really big teams that seem like they're focused almost entirely on him right now, and that's by nature gonna maybe clog things up.
Even for smaller market teams that aren't looking at the biggest ticket items, is that, like, have you found in your conversations that that's one of the factors of why some players are still out there that maybe aren't even involved in that level of?
I don't know that it's affecting every individual conversation, but just the dominoes of whoever you got at the top few players in the market. People are waiting for those decisions, and then I think a lot of that money for the teams that are the bridesmaids will go back into the market, and if you're an agent, maybe you're waiting on that. So I'm just speculating, but I think there's a few theories for why we're off to a little bit of a calm before the storm kind of vibe here.
Like, did last year's success, is that going to put you in a better position to do more than 1-year deals? Like, you had some success with those last year, but have you sort of entered a different phase of team building now that you've proven this is a really strong group?
Yeah, we've been entertaining it. We entertained it last year. I think we've got a lot of returning position players. Basically 1 through 9, we've got returning. And a lot of those guys are around for years and years. So it puts us in a little bit of a unique spot where, we don't really need to run around filling out our position player profile on multi-year deals right now, just because we have so many homegrown core guys. And then it's more of a case-by-case basis if you're talking about pitchers. And we've been in those conversations. Obviously haven't done one of those yet, but it's been on the menu for a while now, and we've gotten really close on some of them, and I'm sure that'll happen at some point.
Is it still a priority to try to lock lock up some of those young guys? We saw the Brewers doing a big deal the other day with their guy before he got to the big leagues. You know, the Orioles, I don't think still have taken that step. Is it still a goal for you?
Yeah, I think it's great when you can do it, and when both sides come together on stuff like that. You know, it's still relatively infrequent because it's hard. You know, you're talking about two sides kind of mutually sharing risk and sharing reward years and years and years and years and years out. It's a difficult thing to line up. I applaud players and front offices anytime it happens. And I've been probably a broken record, but I find that it can be damaging when these things are unnecessarily public. You know, we've seen that in other sports too, and I'm just not real vocal about what we're trying or not trying or working on or not working on. And you know, I think it would be wonderful if we have an announcement like that at some point. It's definitely on the long list of methods to keep a franchise healthy.
Mike, when you talked about a new voice in the dugout with the pitching coach yesterday, did you mean it in a sense of, obviously you're not critical of performance because it was really good this year for the pitchers, just a way for young guys to take next steps? Is that where that voice comes in a little bit? Or?
I think that we're allocating a lot of pitching coaching talent across the organization. You know, Chris has been a big part of that at the major league level, and then also in the minors before that. He's going to be looking at both now. And I think coaching staffs are kind of a dynamic, fluid thing where, you know, your combinations, your wants and needs can evolve as the team itself matures, grows, changes personnel, what have you. And it's very rare to see staffs stay the same, stay static for years and years and years. So I think we have a lot of great pitching coaches in the organization. And Drew French, this is a big opportunity for us to take a guy that we had some prior history with, but also impressed us a lot with what he's done in Atlanta and then also during our interview process, and kind of add him to the mix.
When you have such a successful season and then 3 games, it's over, do you try to look for any lessons from those 3 games? Anything that you saw in that playoff series that you think you need to fix or change? Or is it just, hey, 3 games, it's going to happen?
Yeah, it sucked. It was really abrupt. Whether or not you win the series, you want to play better and longer than we did. I think that there are a lot of objective observers that would tell you don't get too, don't draw too much out of a 3-game sample. I think it's my point of view and my responsibility in the position I'm in to treat it as a failure and try to learn from it. I mean, responsibly. We're not going to like overreact, or you know, we would never look at a player that went 1 for 14 in those 3 games and think less of him. So you got to be careful, but you know, it's my responsibility to give the best team, or to get the team the best chance to get as deep in the playoffs as possible, not only next year, but years and years and years out. And we're trying to balance all that. And we got outplayed, and there are probably ways that we could put ourselves in a better position to avoid that next time. So we'll do the best that we can to address those. You know, no, I can't say that anything specific jumped out from the 3-game series, but we got out hit, we got out pitched. You know, we want to upgrade the team.
Mike, when a young player comes up and maybe struggles in a small sample size, does that in any way change the outlook for what he might do for your team? Does that overwhelm the sample size in AAA when you know he has a lot more at bats in AAA? How do you kind of evaluate it and take that in stride?
There comes a point in time where your failure, even if you have been a very successful minor league player, your major league failures start to make people go, and it's a lot longer than a pretty small sample. I don't know what your definition of that is, but if it's measured in months rather than a year or more, I would say it's probably still pretty small. We have ways of objectively looking at that, through our statistical analysis and other things that we do. But look, the big leagues are different than AAA. In my opinion, it's the biggest jump in the sport because Shohei Otani can't get promoted out of the major leagues to another league. So it's the one league where the best players stick around forever. And so there's a much larger jump between AAA and the big leagues. And there's some guys that just their AAA success just does not convert to equitable major league success. But if we're wondering about guys in our organization right now, I just think with where we're at right now, we don't really have anyone that fits the bill, at least not at the top of my mind.
When you think about improving the pitching, you've had some success developing your own pitching. Do you think that some of it's just time to let some of what you've got in the minors bubble up and let that process sort of bear fruit? Or is it just always going to be something where you like to supplement from outside and from within?
I think we'd like to do it from all angles. I think some free agent activity in there. Whether we make a trade. I think we look at our offseason last year. We traded for a starting pitcher. We signed a starting pitcher. We had internal contributors, and I think that's the best recipe if you're doing a little bit of everything. I think one thing that's nice for us this year is we got a couple pitching prospects that I would consider top 10 or in that neighborhood in our strong farm system that are have pitched in AAA, have pitched well in AAA, and are going to be at a minimum in AAA to start the year. So we got a couple of starting pitchers that we're excited about on the horizon, and then a group that's returning. But they can use some help.
On some level, it's a timeline thing because you might learn from the Grayson Rodriguez experience that it's not going to be right away. Sometimes it'll take a little bit of time. So just sort of lining those timelines up, where you buy yourself a little bit of time with those younger guys by getting a free agent.
Yeah, I think you don't want all rookies going through their growing pains at the same time, and I think having those vets last year, having Irvin and Gibson be there. Afforded us, the ability to send Grayson back down, work out his adjustments. Kyle Bradish didn't get sent down, but he was a much different pitcher at the end of the year than he was at the start. And I think the stability that those guys helped provide was very important to that.
What would it take for Jackson Holiday to break with the team? I mean, if he has a really good spring training, knowing how talented he is, could that happen? Could he break with the team?
Yeah, it's definitely a very strong possibility. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but he had a historic first full season in the minors. Probably you have to go back into the 80s or 90s to find something similar to that, in my opinion, for an American kid out of high school. Got to AAA, wasn't there a huge amount of time. Didn't tear the cover off the ball, but he more than held his own, and he did well. And he's now going to be back in spring training. He just turned 20, I think yesterday or the day before. So that, to me, that's a big year of development, 19 to 20. I mean, you get taller, you get heavier, you get more mature. I mean, there's just a lot of good things that can happen. So we just want to see what he looks like. He's going to be treated in this major league camp, not like a prospect where we're kind of having fun and having him in camp for the experience of it, but like a guy trying to make the team.
Mike, would ideally you like to have him settle in at one position, or are you open to him moving?
He will. I think in Sarasota we're going to see him at short and second base, and we probably won't do much beyond that this year because I think that's where his skills profile best. But it's also seems to me those two positions where I could foresee some playing time in 2024, the most playing time in 2024.
You wouldn't be concerned about his bad performance impacted by moving back and forth. You feel he could handle that?
That's baseball today. Gunnar was a good example of, how that can be accepted and not problematic. I mean, it's challenging for the players, but they can handle it. And some of the biggest stars in baseball, Mookie Betts goes from the outfield to second base. It's part of baseball now, and it provides a lot of value. And there's very, very, very few players that just stand in the same spot and nowhere else.
Like, if this team does not make a major addition this offseason, do you feel like the roster you have today could still compete at the top of the AL East?
Yes, I do. I mean, we won the division last year. 90-some% of the team is back. It would not be ideal, I think, for us to be totally dormant all winter, and we're going to do the best to avoid that. But we're viewing this as a winter to augment this group and to reinforce it and supplement it and not reinvent it or supplant this group. So that's a great starting point. And then we've also got internal reinforcements that most of them are in AAA. So there's a lot there internally, but an off season is an opportunity to go out and bring some players in from outside, and it's a lot easier to do it than it is in the trade deadline. So we're trying to make the most of this opportunity.
Do you believe there's anything to the layoff issues? Do those exist with teams that have those buys in the first round? And would you like to see any adjustment made?
I don't have a big opinion about it. I was thrilled when we won the division and got the bye. I knew that came with some probably unwanted extra rest. I've never seen a scientific study on that. I don't have a big opinion on it. I know there's a lot of baseball people and some players that think it could be less than what it is right now without really harming things. It's not something I've spent much time thinking about.
Mike, after the season, how long did it take you to sort of get over, losing the series, but kind of getting back to appreciating what you were able to do during?
Getting back to what?
Getting back to appreciating what you were able to accomplish during the season.
I wasn't able to enjoy it for too long. The playoffs was a gut punch. I think we were very busy right away with those 3 weeks of October that we had dormant, preparing for the offseason. We got right back to work. I think after you have a playoff ouster like that, you're kind of hungry to get back to work, and you don't want to reflect too much. But we had a tremendous regular season, one of the best regular seasons in last 30 years Orioles baseball. It's right up there. And we had a lot of individual successes. It was a big step forward for the franchise. There's a lot to celebrate, but we turned our attention to 2024 pretty quickly.
So you didn't enjoy it too much.
A little bit of both. Yeah. Healthy amount of flagellation, but also enjoyment.
You've been there a while now. Can you see a difference in the city when it comes to baseball? That there's, the Orioles are kind of, not that they've been a thing before, but that there's a difference now.
When I went to go work for the Astros in 2012 and moved to Houston, and the Astros were really bad at that point in time. There were Texas Rangers hats everywhere. You didn't see Astro stuff. And when I came to Baltimore in 2018, the Orioles were really bad, but there were Orioles hats everywhere. And so this is like a constant dormant, even when the team's bad. It's a very, it's a civic centerpiece, and it's like we're missing something when the team's bad. So I'm really optimistic now that I think our attendance will grow and grow watching this group of guys, and I really hope that radiates out into the downtown Baltimore and Inner Harbor and all that, and it a lot of encouraging signs this year.
There must have been moments